Coordinated Universal Time, UTC, 10:59 p.m. The globe is plunged into an unprecedented, suffocating silence. In Tokyo, the afternoon sun is warm, but office workers are already lying on cots at their workstations. In London, the late-night pubs are empty, bartenders and patrons alike already in slumber. In Los Angeles, the morning birds have just begun to sing, but the morning joggers are long since lying flat in their bedrooms. 8 billion people at this very moment are bound by a supreme law, preparing to enter an 8-hour global synchronized sleep. And you are the sole exception. Your heart is pounding wildly in your chest. Sleepiness is a distant legend. You know that in 60 seconds, when the activity frequency of all brains on the planet drops to its lowest point, you're still online. Active brain will be locked onto by them, in an instant, like a beacon in the night. You, an insomniac, are about to become the most dangerous criminal on the planet. Welcome to such a world. In this world, our question is, if all 8 billion people on Earth had to sleep synchronously, would insomnia be a felony? Spoiler alert. Yes. And its charge would likely be more severe than any crime you can imagine. The Insane Act. Why synchronized sleep? Scene change. A pseudo-documentary style clip of historical footage showing the chaos of energy crises and citywide blackouts. First, a rational question. How did we end up in such an insane situation? The answer is hidden in the Great Global Energy Famine of 2042. At that time, humanity discovered that our biggest energy consumption black hole was not factories or transportation, but our own brains. Hardcore calculation time 1. What is the cost of being awake? Let's do a simple estimation to see what a terrifying energy-consuming machine 8 billion conscious brains truly are. Step 1. The appetite of a single brain. An adult brain, when awake and thinking, has a power output of about 20 watts. Like a dim, old-fashioned bedside lamp. Sounds trivial? Step 2. Multiply that light bulb by 8 billion. Imagine every person on Earth has a 20-watt light bulb on their head when awake. Now, let's turn on all 8 billion of them at the same time. Total power equals 20 watts / person times 8 billion people equals 160 billion. Watts equals 160 gigawatts, GW. Step 3. How big is this number? What does 160 gigawatts mean? It's enough to simultaneously power all the homes, factories, and city lights of the entire United Kingdom and France combined. In other words, just to maintain the conscious awareness of all humanity, we need to pay an electricity cost equivalent to the total consumption of both the UK and France. A sleeping brain, however, cuts its power consumption in half. In an era of extreme energy scarcity, a genius, or perhaps a devil, proposed the fatal solution, the Global Synchronized Sleep Act. The act was passed. A super agency called the Global Sleep Authority, GSA, was established, stipulating that the period from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Universal Time Coordinated would be the global sleep window. During this time, any form of wakefulness would be considered a grave threat to global energy security. The absurd reality. What about babies, jet lag, and nightmares? The implementation of the act immediately gave rise to a series of comical technical challenges and social spectacles. The time zone problem. The GSA solved this in the simplest, most brutal way, by ignoring time zones. This led to the birth of time zone professions. For example, in Japan, UTC +9, people had to go home to sleep at 4 p.m. and then wake up at 1 a.m. to start a new day. On the US West Coast, UTC -8, people went to bed at 3 a.m. and woke up at 11 a.m. Those unable to sleep. What about infants and critically ill patients? The GSA established countless enormous, fully automated exemption zones. Newborns would be sent to incubation pods, where they were uniformly fed and administered sedatives by AI nannies until they could adapt to the global sleep cycle. Accidental wakefulness. Is waking up from a nightmare a crime? The GSA created extremely complex, accidental awakening exemption regulations. Each accidental awakening could not exceed 180 seconds. Cross that threshold, and you would be flagged as a potential insomniac. Emergency services. What about fires, earthquakes, and medical emergencies? All emergency services were handled by robots and drones. A vast, sleepless, Iron Legion maintained the basic functioning of the world during humanity's 8 hours of slumber. The crime and punishment of insomnia. The sleep police are knocking. In this world, your greatest fear is not the FBI, but the Consciousness Compliance Bureau, CCB, colloquially known as the sleep police. Once they find you awake during the sleep window, you will face felony charges. Why? Because your insomnia is a tangible social liability. Hardcore calculation time 2. 1 year of insomnia equals how much stolen electricity. We won't calculate some vague fine. We will only calculate the energy debt you cause society. Step 1. Calculate the nightly energy waste. Energy difference equals awake power, sleep power, times time your brain is 20 watts when awake and 12 watts when asleep, so the power difference is 8 watts. If you have insomnia for a full night, 8 hours, the extra energy you consume is 8 watts times 8 hours equals 64 watt hours. Step 2. Multiply that waste by 365 days. As a chronic insomniac, your annual energy debt is 64 WH/night times 365 nights equals 23,360 WH is almost equal to 23.4 kilowatt hours. Step 3. How heavy is this debt? 23.4 kilowatt hour may not sound like much, but in that world, this amount of energy is enough to power a Tesla for over 150 kilometers or run a refrigerator for a full month. In court, the prosecutor would accuse you. Defendant, your annual insomnia steals a month's worth of rations for one refrigerator from our strained energy grid. This is an irrefutable energy theft felony. Insomnia officially became an expensive felony. New underground industries emerged, like the sleep black market, smuggling banned substances like caffeine, melatonin, and even illegal white noise. The ultimate luxury was a training course called Logical Dreaming, which taught you how to maintain conscious thought while asleep, becoming a legal thinker. The domino effect, a global collapse triggered by a cat. This seemingly perfect system is actually incredibly fragile because it contends with the most unpredictable force in the universe: chaos. Imagine a scenario. In Los Angeles, at 4 a.m., a cat jumps off a bookshelf, shattering a vase. The loud noise startles its owner from a deep sleep. Initial event. The owner awakens. Their brain's power spikes from 12W to 20W. The local consciousness energy balancing network instantly detects an 8W energy deficit and begins to dispatch energy to compensate. Cascading failure. However, due to a few seconds of dispatch delay, this tiny energy gap causes a 0.001% voltage drop in the local grid. This drop is harmless to humans, but fatal for an elderly person in another apartment using an older model sleep apnea machine. The machine's alarm blares due to the unstable voltage. The elderly person also wakes up. The energy deficit is now 16W. The collapse begins. The 16W deficit causes wider voltage instability. More sensitive electronics, like baby monitors and smart home alarms, begin to sound off in a chain reaction. Hardcore calculation time 3. The collapsing dominoes. This is a typical exponential growth model. NT equals N times RNT is the number of people awakened at time T. N is the initial number of people awakened, equals 1. R is the average number of other people awakened by each awakened person through the chain reaction, the propagation rate. Let's assume in a densely populated city, this R value is as high as 1.5. Round 1. One person wakes up. Round 2. 1 times 1.5 is equal to 1.5 people. We round up to 2 wake up. Round 3. 2 times 1.5 is equal to 3 people wake up. Within minutes, the number of awakened people explodes exponentially from single digits to hundreds of thousands. The result? A mass desynchronized awakening event triggered by a single cat erupts. To protect itself from the massive energy deficit, the GSA's energy network can only resort to sectional grid shutdowns, cutting power to entire cities. The blackout brings greater panic and chaos, causing more people to awaken. Ultimately, the entire North American energy grid collapses. Restarting it would take weeks, with economic losses calculated in the tens of trillions of dollars. In this world, the world's most wanted fugitive is no longer a terrorist or a financial tycoon, but an obese man with severe sleep apnea. His snores are flagged by the CCB's sonic detectors as a potential weapon of mass destruction, as a single loud snore could theoretically trigger a civilization-ending awakening storm. When sleep becomes duty, dreams become the final battlefield. All right, our crazy ladder has reached its end. From a seemingly rational energy-saving act to an absurd, fragile, high-pressure global dystopia, insomnia has undoubtedly become the most serious crime in this world. But what does this thought experiment truly reveal? It reveals the eternal war between order and freedom. To pursue a collective, calculable optimal solution, how much individual, unpredictable chaos are we willing to sacrifice? When efficiency and security become the highest principles, how much value is left in our most basic humanity, like the right to toss and turn late at night? This system controlled when you closed your eyes and when you opened them, but it had a fatal flaw it could never touch. It could not control what you dreamed. In this world, the greatest revolutionaries, artists, and thinkers were no longer those who raised their voices in the real world. They were the dream hackers. In the globally synchronized, deathly silent 8 hours, they constructed the freest, wildest, most subversive worlds in the depths of their own minds. Here they engaged in illegal thinking, spread forbidden ideas, and plotted the smallest, yet most fatal, acts of resistance against this oppressive world for their 16 waking hours. Because even if you lock 8 billion people in the same prison of time, you can never lock up 8 billion free souls, thinking alone in the dead of night. And that is the most humorous, and also the most hopeful part of this story. This crazy thought experiment is not just about a sci-fi story. It is, in fact, a distorted funhouse mirror, reflecting our current, efficiency-obsessed era with terrifying accuracy. Just look at ourselves. We live in a culture that champions being never offline. The 24-hour convenience stores, the midnight email chimes, the 3 a.m. deadlines, society is silently and relentlessly compressing our right to be offline. We are synchronized by schedules, app notifications, and work groups, as if each of us is a precision gear in a giant machine, and any disconnection is a shameless betrayal of the system's efficiency. Isn't that absurd global Synchronized Sleep Act the very embodiment of this ultimate efficiency cancer? It is merely the ultimate logical conclusion of our era's productivity worship. So, this thought-provoking story is ultimately a defense of all the moments in our lives defined as useless. It defends the anxious tossing and turning late at night, the aimless daydreaming in the afternoon, the random thoughts with no purpose. These unquantified, unsynchronized, non-KPI-optimized mental gaps are precisely our last line of defense as individuals against being formatted our most precious freedom. So, back to our anxious reality. The next time you have insomnia due to stress and blame yourself for being offline, perhaps you can think of it from a different perspective. This is not a waste. It may just be your soul, using this moment of silence to quietly calibrate its inner compass for the battles of the coming day.